Hi, my name is Marcie. Welcome to Holtorf Medical Group. Today we have a special guest, Christopher Brandlin, mold attorney, Dr. Christopher Brandlin, Esquire. How you doing today, Christopher?
I'm doing always amazing. Just got back into town from Tampa at the Hack Your Health, and I'm glad I get to see you guys because not only do you keep my clients on their feet, you keep me on my feet too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then becoming Holtorf Medical Group's mold attorney.
Yes.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So I actually got more intrigued with like functional regenerative alternative medicine like in 2017, and it was actually after just regretful experience with conventional medicine. And this is why I have to distinguish like conventional medicine from functional or alternative or regenerative medicine too. But I finally kind of was recognizing that conventional medicine was leading the wrong direction. So I actually ended up doing a 10-day water fast, and just to, because I was like, I have to save the rest of my intestines. I'm never going to let them cut me open again. They made my life worse. And I refed on only meat. And that's where it kind of started, like, like a wake up call is like, diet and functional medicine. So I actually became a carnivore that year because I looked into the carnivore diet, and I actually flew over to Budapest, Hungary, and treated with the Paleo Medicina Clinic. But when I came back, I noticed that whenever I got exposed to like environmental toxins, I was still getting sick. So that's why I tell a lot of people in the carnivore community is that, sometimes a meat-based diet is not going to cure all of your problems, especially if you're exposed to mold. And there's a huge amount of carnivores that are actually still dealing with a lot of mold illness. So I think it was like Michaela Peterson. She was actually one of the first people I spoke with before she became popular. She called me on her cell phone. Now she's all over like social media. So what I started learning too is I started looking into ozone therapy, and that's how I got introduced, treating like ozone in conjunction with carnivore diet. And this is where I started feeling even better. And this has been from like bedridden for like a year, right? And all the getting my intestines cut open and just the worst depression. I started getting back on my feet. I started training, and I mean, I was probably in the best shape during law school, and I won the bodybuilding contest in 2010. But I started feeling stronger. I had more energy. I was like, you know what? I think we're addressing something a lot more like in depth. So I started doing a lot more ozone therapy, and then I combined it with hyperbaric oxygen therapy. I started using medical grade because they're both oxygen-based therapies. But the ozone therapy, the reason why I like that is what I learned, even from the hyperbaric oxygen like technicians and some of the experts that give their seminars in hyperbaric, they're like like hyperbaric does have antimicrobial activities, but they also recommend. They said, if you do ozone therapy, as well, it's a perfect combination because the third molecule of ozone, the third atom of O3. That's what has like the antimicrobial, antiviral, antifungal properties. And not just that, the ozone itself is a really strong anti-inflammatory because a lot of people, when they're really sick, not only do they have these infections, but they're just really, they're really inflamed. Even when I did depositions of these mold experts, is that mold grows in very humid environments. So mold grows it can technically grow at anything above 50% humidity. And then in LA County, and then even when I go to certain parts of Florida, when I travel the globe, I realize that all these places are really humid. And that's why I sometimes feel better staying out in the desert, Palm Desert or Las Vegas, where I'm mainly at right now. It actually helped me finish my PhD, and because I got a PhD in public policy and crosses over with public health. Actually, it's mainly with the College of Public Health, actually. And then, my movement was, I want to run for Congress because I think, America's healthcare system is leading to the wrong direction.
Absolutely.
Most of the doctors right now, they have very little education in nutrition and alternative medicine, and 95% of their curriculum is pharmacology and surgeries. Really. So they're all, basically these pharmaceutical companies are funding all these medical institutions who are teaching our future doctors, and instead of doing natural health, they're just giving you a bunch of pills. And I always say that if you go to a doctor and you tell him that you have problems, and he reaches for the prescription pad immediately and just prescribes you medication without asking about your diet or your lifestyle, you don't have a doctor. You have a drug dealer. And we need more functional doctors, and that's why I'm so appreciative of you. And then I started so I started looking into mold, and I started doing mold litigation because, in almost all 50 states, a landlord or even like a an HOA has like the obligation to provide habitable premises. HOA is for common areas and all that. If they have mold in the hallways and different, but the landlords too. And then I realized that so many people, especially in LA County, were getting sick from mold. But they were telling me they were never getting any better. And I asked them, what'd you do for treatment? Oh, I just went to my primary care physician, and he sent me to another person, but none of them know how to treat mold. So they gave me a bunch of antibiotics, which made me worse. I'm like, that's the problem. Yeah. Because there's very few mold literate doctors. And there's a database, and you guys are like at the top of the database too with, I think it's like Lyme literate medical doctors and mold literate, LMMD. But so what I started encouraging them, I personally got better, but you're not going to get better if you go to your primary care physician, because none of them, you need to see a mold literate doctor. And some of the best is all the doctors at Holtorf Medical Group here in in El Segundo. So I started recommending that, and then I realized that a lot of my I wasn't even surprised. I knew they're going to get better as long as they stayed consistent, and all my clients were getting better. But then I was like, let me get some medical records. Let's submit demand, and we're getting all these these clients basically compensated. Not only for the actual expenses for the mold treatment, you get general damages, you get pain and suffering, but you also get all the rent that you paid during the time in which the property was deemed uninhabitable to get reimbursed. You just paid rent for a whole year for a moldy place. We're going to get that all back in your pocket. And this is why I became, more known as the mold attorney, which I may also trademark as well.
Yeah. Yes. You were my mold attorney.
Yes, I was. I'm glad we got that resolved too. And then, I'm more important. I'm glad you're in a better place too. Yes. You're in a much happier, a very habitable premises, free of mold. I was out, actually, I just got one of the best settlements for a family of 5 who was living in Inglewood, and it was a really good settlement. And it was actually from a friend that I knew him from the gym for like 10 years ago, but him and his family were bedridden, and you guys treated them, and they moved into a better place, and they kept doing treatment. Not only did we get a really good settlement right before the holidays, because Christmas is coming up, so so we could get gifts for his family, because he was talking about like filing for bankruptcy. Yeah, so but because he was struggling because inflation's high.
You can hardly work.
But his wife and his kids are just thriving now, so they feel a lot better. So that's why I think it's really important for a lot of people who are suffering from mold. First of all, you have a claim, okay? I was on LinkedIn for 14 years as an attorney before I started getting on all these major, because I just got on all this major social media in the last year when I made my announcement to run for Congress on Fox News.
I love it.
I was on LinkedIn, but every time I posted something when they were talking about how do you vaccines, or what's the cure rate, what's the efficacy rate, I'm like, I started posting these studies ozone therapy can treat COVID. You guys know that? People do the ivermectin, the horse dewormer, which also is a good adjunct, or a hydrochloroquine, whatever. But ozone therapy, there's studies. They did it in Spain and Italy. Basically, they were treating their patients with ozone therapy. Guys, it is minimally invasive. There's no drawbacks. It's only going to make you feel better, and it's a natural anti-inflammatory to also oxygenate your body. You guys should be doing this rather than putting some dangerous, vaccine that's promoted by soy boobs Billy Gates, who has no medical degree whatsoever. He has no degree whatsoever. He's only known for generating computer viruses. That's what he's known for. So people should have woken up. But a lot of people are so easily manipulated. And this is why I needed to run for Congress, because we need to change America's healthcare. I think health is so important. So the biggest problems we're having is health, okay? And we're seeing a decline. We're seeing cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease actually increased, quadrupled, ever since they started reducing fat intake and reducing meat intake. And then we've seen that babies used to have 1 or 2 or 3 vaccines in the 70s and 80s. Now they get 40. So I think these dangerous pharmaceuticals, and this is why I started looking into, by the way, peptide therapy is something that also you guys offer. And that was amazing when I started learning about BPC 157, thymosin alpha 1, KPV, LL37, which is another antifungal, antibacterial. I was like, this is this combination of regenerative medicine, and theyese peptides, they're just combinations of amino acids that's really kind of highly studied. There's no drawbacks. So it's amazing that I wish so many more people can go to functional health.
Me too.
But the problem is, the FDA. I mean, even though if I met Bobby Kennedy in January, he still doesn't have the full control. I mean, because the pharmaceutical industry funds over 2/3 of Congress. And as a Republican, I even bashed people from my own party I'm like, they're funding mostly Democrats. And most of the Democrats are getting the most money from the pharmaceutical companies. That's kind of obvious, but it's a few Republicans are getting a large amounts. I'm like, this is control. I was like, we need, it would be amazing if your health insurance paid for your ozone therapy at Holtorf Medical Clinic.
Come on.
You know what? I don't want to say it's futile. It may happen, but we need to get more voices heard at higher levels.
I agree.
The American public, they're so easily manipulated because they really think that these people are getting better when it's completely the opposite. And if they really looked into it, or just looked outside the box, and this is why I have so much respect for regenerative doctors, especially Dr. Holtorf, is that, they went through the curriculum. They learned all this, but you know what? They decided to look outside the box and see they wanted to get their patients better. And this is why I like a lot of the carnivore doctors too, is that they learned that, we learned 12 hours of nutrition in our entire medical school curriculum. Why is it so little? I mean, why does a personal trainer know more about nutrition than the average doctor?
Right.
Not only am I promoting the carnivore, I'm not expecting everybody to be a carnivore. I just want people to eat real food, just one ingredient. And we should not demonize meat and fat, okay? And actually, animal-based fat is actually truly healing. And ever since we reduced the fat, it started going down. But I really want to promote regenerative medicine.
Yes.
I mean, that's one part of this new generation, this technology, that I think we have actually a really big opportunity to make America healthy again.
Agreed.
It's, let's clean up the diet. No more lab-grown BS meat, all right? Let's eat real meat. Let's support our American farmers. I do have a protocol to make meat affordable again, and I actually discussed it with some of the farmers because I was in Tampa this weekend.
Oh, okay.
I do have to give you a good compliment, by the way, too. I did the EBU last week, as you remember, right before I flew out to Tampa. And I did it like Tuesday. I felt amazing in Tampa this week. So people need to realize that, especially if they got jabbed, all right? Because they got the coagulation of the vaccines.
Absolutely.
And that's the most common thing is that people need to realize that they need to have good blood flow. And what's the best thing about ozone, especially EBU, is that you're oxygenating the blood and you're cleaning it out. So I really, so as part of my, my campaign, I'm really focusing on health because I think health is, it's a bipartisan topic, okay? When you think of all immigration, you can see it so far, right? We're favoring anti-immigration, put up the border. But when it comes to health, that's a bipartisan topic where it's going to require both of the political parties to come together, collaborate, and and come up with the best plan to address the America public health issue because your focus is the people, not yourself. And I really wish more congressmen actually thought like this because most of them are just focusing on who's basically paying their back pocket. So that's why I'm also, my thing is oxygen and meat and ozone is such a more powerful form of an oxygen-based therapy. I
agree.
I'm like, guys, if you do ozone and a carnivore diet, it's like the perfect combination.
Yes. I've been off the carnivore diet for a couple months now. I know, shame on me.
And the holidays are approaching too, so you have to be careful.
I feel horrible.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I was just telling my husband that on the way to work this morning. I'm like, I've got to go back on the carnivore. I felt amazing. The energy I felt, just the health I felt. Yeah. I mean, happy, healthy. I got up every day. I didn't feel like I needed to sleep all day or rest all day.
And your mental health, because I actually probably looked over a couple hundred clinical studies proving that the increased amount of carbohydrates led to depression and
I see that.
Psychosis and everything else like that. I was like, actually not only increasing your meat and your animal-based fat actually has been proven to reduce all these cognitive and depression issues. But, it's a lot of people, a lot of men, that's why I say no more beta males. I'm like, your testosterone's low. But you know what happens when you reduce your fat, especially if you reduce your animal-based fat, which is the most high, it's good, the best absorbed because it's, straight, EPA and DHA, not this plant-based crap.
Right.
Your testosterone's going to plummet. So there's a lot of people, they lift and they work out. And even if they eat a lot of protein, they eat low fat. I'm like, yeah, your testosterone's at 200, buddy. I mean, you got to boost it back up. I mean, you could take the TRT. I mean, it's going to help you temporarily, but you got to address the root problem. And the root problem is you got no fat.
Christopher, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. And thank you so much for all that you do. Christopher donated a Hocket ozone sauna
Yes.
to us since he's in between here and Nevada with his campaign. So thank you. Thank you so much. We'll get a lot of use out of that.
I'd prefer to keep it here because I'd want to see all of your patients get better. They're already getting better, but I want to see basically all the options you have. And I think it's probably perfect to do in conjunction with the EBU.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll make a little package.
Yes.